Hello and welcome back to day 5 in our 7 Steps to Freedom. And I have another very special guest with me, as you can see today. I will introduce him in just a second. But as we've gone through the past 4 days, we've been talking about how to launch your business, essentially, how to create your story and offer, how to go out into your different markets and have those different conversations, how to increase our marketplace, how to increase our network so we can go out and always have great people to talk to. And then we've talked about actually starting to create some systems and duplication so we have leverage and residual income. Now, from there, we always hear the saying, treat this like a business and it will pay you like a business. If we want to have a great network marketing business, we need to treat it like a business. And it's always one that makes me laugh because you can say it on stage. You can stand there on stage and say, who knows they need to treat this like a business? And every hand goes up. Then you ask the follow-up question of who knows how to treat this like a business? What does it actually mean to treat this like a business? And the great thing about network marketing is you can come in without any business experience, without a lot of money, without a degree or anything like that, and really get to work and change your life. It also means a lot of people have never run a business before. So when I think about running a network marketing business, when I think about people who lift this profession of network marketing, if I think about people who I look to every day and they just inspire me with how they show up and how they treat this profession of network marketing to raise the whole profession, obviously for their own life and their team and their industry, their company, everything. They do so much for this profession. And I couldn't think of anyone else who epitomizes the business of network marketing and treating it like a business than my good mate, Zach Slobin. Mate, thanks for being on. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. And that's considering the people that you have in your life and that you're surrounded by in this industry. That's the highest form of praise. And I'm just honored to be able to be here and hopefully contribute to your community about a business and an industry and a subject that's obviously dramatically changed both of our lives. And so whatever I can do to pay it forward to people that, are wildly engaged and highly capable, I'm always happy to, give back in whatever way I can. So I'm just grateful to be here with you.
Well, mate, you and I were literally talking before we hit that record button that we might have been separated at birth and just had a huge ocean between us. I mean, I'm in Australia and Zach's in America, but both of us, I mean, you put it into words very, very well, but I always had the same issue where I just had to run a business essentially because it's not that I didn't have good work ethic or I couldn't, respect someone, but I was just not employable at the end of the day because I always wanted to have the autonomy of running my own business. But we also have to understand that maybe we're the weirdos, maybe we're like the minority. I think sometimes, especially, and we'll get to this obviously, but sometimes because we love our business model, we think everyone's going to love our business model. But before we get to that, just talking about, you've had so much business experience because you were just psychologically unemployable. So how do you see the network marketing business model? Like talking about that as a whole, what attracted it to you? Because you are someone who would be successful in anything you do because of your mindset, because of your skill set, because of your work ethic.
Yeah, so great question. So at first I was really repulsed by the network marketing industry. And the reason I was really turned off by it is my parents divorced when I was younger, mainly because of financial difficulties, which is something so many people experience and leads to high divorce rates, unfortunately. And I remember when my dad was trying to put his life back together, he said, "Hey, Zach, I figure out how I'm going to really start to be able to make some good money." And he said, "I want to show you this product that I'm going to start working with." And I said, "Great." And he drove me to this factory up in a small beach town called Oxnard, California, which is north of Los Angeles by a couple hours. And he takes me to this factory, mate, and they're showing me, he says, "Look at this." And what it was a bar of soap. And inside the bar of soap was a tiny plastic toy. And the idea was once a kid was done using the soap enough times, they'd be left with this plastic toy. And he goes, "This is the product, and we're going to sell it using this thing called network marketing." And he explained network marketing to me very briefly. But in that moment, I associated network marketing with not illegitimate businesses, but rinky-dink businesses, not a real business. And in my mind, like you said, I've been psychologically unemployable since I was a kid. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to go into business for myself at some point. But so at 15 years old, I created a story that said network marketing only distributes garbage products for people like my dad who are desperate to make money. That's how I viewed the industry. And then when I was 24 years old, I had actually just paid a huge tuition to the School of Hard Knocks to the tune of about $200,000, where I was cut out of a deal because I didn't treat it like a business. I didn't have contracts in place. I didn't know what I was doing. I was egotistical and arrogant. And I built a business alongside of a woman. And at the end of the year, she properly cut me out. Now, I could play the victim and tell that whole story, but ultimately, I'm culpable for not getting things documented and not showing up like a businessman. Anyway, I found myself working in a call center doing sales because I had to make money. I was struggling. And a gentleman pulled me aside and he said, Hey man, you don't belong here. He goes, I'm working on a brand new project. I think you'd be amazing at it. Will you come take a look at it with us? And I said, sure. Anyways, turns out the product was this incredible coffee. And as you know, I'm a huge coffee lover. And then they say, and we're going to distribute it using network marketing. And I'll never forget, I just went like this, shut down. And my buddy who had introduced me to it pulled me aside that day, and he'd been quite successful previously in the industry. And he said, look, he said, I saw your body language. He goes, clearly you have some concerns about the distribution model because I saw that's when you kind of changed. He goes, do me a favor. He said, go home and do your research on the industry. And if you really understand what it's all about, like if you really, really get this, and if you still decide that it's not for you, then no big deal, we'll part as friends. And to me, that made sense. So I went home and I started doing all kinds of research. And of course, I saw the negative reviews online, this, that, and the other. But I was intelligent enough to know that most of those reviews were being written by people trying to backdoor their own programs and services and things like that. So I immediately dismissed 99% of the negative stuff that was out there. And I came across a video called Brilliant Compensation by a man named Tim Sales, who's a legend in the industry. And Tim started to lay out the brilliance of the business model itself. And he taught me leverage. And it was the first time I'd ever been introduced to leverage in that way. And my mind just exploded. It was like the scene in The Matrix where Neo chooses the blue pill and just goes full on, right? That was that moment for me. And so what I fell in love with was, wait a minute, here's a way for the everyday person to enter into the entrepreneurial arena and pursue financial freedom without having to take on massive amounts of risk while being able to build something alongside of their primary source of income so they can learn what it takes to be an entrepreneur, so they can learn how to sell, so they can learn how to market, so they can learn how to brand themselves, all while building some income alongside of it. And to me, that was where it really clicked for me, where I said to myself, wait a minute, okay, so I have very little to risk and I have all kinds of upside potential. And if done right with the right company, the right products, the right systems in place, this is really something where someone who wants to put in the work consistently over a sustained period of time can create real freedom in their lives. So that was the first part of the business I fell in love with. And the second part of the business I fell in love with was that for the everyday person that just does want to operate this as a side hustle, what an incredible way for them to make an extra $300 to $500 a month to alleviate some of that financial burden on the household. And so that's kind of what I saw in it from a business model perspective. And then the thing that really impressed me was I saw the quality of people that were endorsing the network marketing profession. These were wildly successful investors and business owners, the Warren Buffetts of our world, the Richard Bransons, the Robert Kiyosaki's. And I looked at it and said, these are really intelligent business people. And who am I? Who am I sitting here, broke working in a, call center to think that I'm smarter than these guys when it comes to business? And I had a mentor who said, look, if you think like successful people think, if you read like successful people read, if you work how successful people work, if you invest how successful people invest, and if you get into businesses that successful people get into, what do you think is going to happen to you, Zach? And I said, well, I'll become successful. And that's pretty much one of the biggest things that I saw within the network marketing space.
You've made 5 or 6 massive points, and I'd love to, I don't know if I can hit them all, obviously, just in the time we have, but I think you said, and we did talk about this yesterday when we were just looking at we do talk about residual income in this business, but leverage is really the key. And it's not that residual income isn't possible. Residual income is totally possible, but leverage is the really incredible thing that we sell. And, my background was, I wanted to get into kind of sports medicine and be a physiotherapist because then I could travel the world and that was like my autonomy. But even when I would work in Canada and I was working with like ski athletes over in Canada, the paperwork and the red tape and the fees and the exams I had to go through to work with the human body in Canada versus the human body in Australia. And I was like, man, what is this? And then, so I kind of went into small business myself. But again, the amount of money that it cost, and actually had to, my parents had to mortgage their house essentially to allow me to start in small business. And then I could create an amount of leverage, a small amount of leverage through staff. But there was just this like, man, like something's missing. And so I had so many of those common objections to you that, oh no, that's just for kind of people who don't really have a job. And then I'm like, no, I'm a professional. And then I sort of realized, and I think the real key thing that you said there that I hope people picked up on was that the easy thing to do, the thing that would have taken no energy, would have been to object. The thing that takes zero objection is just zero energy, sorry, is just to reject and dismiss something you hear immediately. And, we haven't covered it in these sessions yet, but when we talk about overcoming objections, so many people, their objection is just, I just can't be bothered using my brain. You went out of your way to actually go and do the research. You went out of your way to grow yourself. And then you found this amazing industry. And then from that, it shows in how you show up, because you put in that effort, because you learned the skills and everything around it, and you surrounded yourself with great people. You've been able to create this incredible business. So I'd love to just talk about that, like for you and Eden, your beautiful wife, like when you talk about your business and the people you're running, how do you show up every day when we talk about like leading as a business leader, leading a team? It comes back to a lot of how we show up as a business owner, if our reliability and the faith that people have in us. So how do you see that? Like, how do you see that? And I guess probably the other question is, what are some of the common mistakes people are making when they're running a network marketing business, but really they're just kind of laying on the beach with their phone, taking selfies?
Sure. So I think for me is, somebody said to me a long time ago in the industry, they said, you're the CEO of your business, hire and fire accordingly. You're the CEO of your business, hire and fire accordingly. So I took a look at that and said, okay, that means that if I were to judge my performance at the end of today, what would my performance review look like the next day? And if I didn't make my calls, or if I didn't do my follow-ups, or if I didn't do my consistent social media content or whatever it was, then quite frankly, I have no right to even claim that I desire a new result in my life. So that's the first thing, is earning the right to have a different outcome. Because we can sit here and talk about, oh, right, I want to be on the beach, I want to travel, yada, yada, yada. Great. And are you willing to create and develop different habits so that you can create different results? And I had to look myself in the mirror for sure years ago. And then the other thing I do is I hold myself to a ridiculously high standard of accountability. And in my mind, I just look at it like this. I imagine that there's a documentary film crew following me around 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if my team members and my prospects could see what I was doing in that moment, would they want to be a part of my organization? Plain and simple. So if they saw me choose to go out and have, a couple of pints with my mates, as opposed to hopping on a webinar that I said I was going to do, and I demonstrate some level of inconsistency, I immediately discredit myself. And as we know, credibility in business is everything. And I think especially in today's world, where people have their own versions of what leadership means and leadership looks like, I've always been a big believer in, I'm never going to ask our team to do something that I haven't previously done myself, or that I'm not consistently still in the process of doing. Because again, leadership is something that is earned every single day. Leadership earned every single day. And so I think one of the big mistakes that people make in this industry, when you ask what are the mistakes, is people make a little bit of money and they think that they've actually done something. People hit a rank in their company, and this isn't to take anything away from that. It's incredible. Like, congratulations for rank advancing. Congratulations for being on pace to earning six figures, but you're probably not earning six figures. You probably just had your first $10,000 month, which is phenomenal. Like, celebrate it, pop some champagne. And so what? Now what? And our mindset, Eden and our mindset has always been, we haven't done anything yet. We haven't done anything yet. One day there will be a day where we can have a season where we can rest a little bit. We can take our foot off the gas. We can enjoy the fruits of our labor a little bit. And that's the idea. But for the first 5 years of our build, at least, maybe 6, it was nonstop. It was nonstop, because what I wanted to create was an environment where our organization looked at us and said, look how committed they are. Look how they show up. Look how they practice what they preach. If I'm going to bet my life and my extra time on these people and with this company, I got to trust that they're in the trenches with me. But if you just, I say it like this all the time, the analogy I use in terms of mistakes, I talk about all the time, is you see people they post on social media and they're like, new project, watch this space. And watch this space is by far it makes me cringe. Why would I watch that space? First of all, I got my own life going on. I'm not going to sit here and wait for you to do something, but it's a huge setup for failure. It's a huge recipe. What I love is go about it with quiet confidence. Enough with these bold declarations. Just show up, just put in the work. Because a lot of what happens is people say, watch this space. I'm opening a brand new restaurant, for example. And they put the open sign on, they have a big grand opening. And then 2 days later, they just don't feel like opening it. And now customers are walking by going, oh, wait, didn't this place just open? And now they have a closed sign? Okay, well, we're going to go across the street. Well, this is the exact same thing. If you're not open for business every single day, demonstrably through your actions, people are going to go elsewhere. So one of the big questions I like to ask myself is, based on how I'm showing up, would I join me? Would I join me? I mean, I have a friend of mine, this was 2 or 3 years back now, but I'll never forget. He was a seasoned leader, and he called me and he's like, look, man, I got to be honest. Like, for the last year and a half, I've been really, he's a different company of mine. He goes, I've been really, down on myself, and I haven't really been connected, and I haven't been working, and I haven't been consistent, and I just haven't felt good about things. And, and then just last week, this guy who I'd been prospecting from another company, another networker, he joined that his company, but with another leader. And it was this huge punch to the gut. And my mate's just complaining about it. And I said, bro, let's just stop for a moment. I said, let me ask you a question. Based on how you just described your last year and a half, if you were that person observing your behaviors or lack thereof, would you join you? And it was a clear no. And so I think a willingness to take massive responsibility and accountability for how we show up really makes or breaks the quality of an organization. And I think the other thing that I always think about is, and I know this for a fact, is a network marketing organization is a living, breathing organism. It's an organism. And we can, Jim Rohn, of course, used to talk about it being like a field and being a farmer. So when you look at it as an organism, you have to ask yourself the question of, are the deposits that I'm making, am I sowing seeds of productivity, gratitude, consistency, humility, or am I sowing seeds of negativity, jealousy, laziness, procrastination, comparison? But whatever kind of seeds you sow, that's what's going to take shape in the organism. So we've got to be really mindful that we're not depositing negative, toxic debits into our account, because that's really how the organism works. And it will flourish quickly. And the thing that I really want the people that are watching this, that are committed to building their way to, to massive freedom in their lives, is I want you, for those of you listening, I want you to be ruthlessly committed to paying attention to every single decision that you make. And is this decision a healthy decision for my organization? Because what I can tell you, and I say this with all the sensitivity in the world, is that cancer spreads far more rapidly than health does. If you ever notice a sick person, it takes a sick person a much longer time to get healthy than it took them to get sick. Well, our organizations are the same. Your organization will get sick way faster than it will get healthy if you're not consistently focused on healthy actions and healthy ways of showing up every single day.
And Zach, you make such a good point. And it's not about being a wet blanket. It's not about saying, no, this is going to be the hardest thing you ever do. It's about dreaming bigger. It's about having that bigger vision. And if we look at, the journey of the associate, and people go through these journeys and the kind of common roadblocks that people hit. And we talked in the past few days that, people come out, they start using a product, they get excited, they post on their social media, and there's going to be a percentage of friends, probably 3 to 5% of your network, who are ready to buy right now with what you do. Like we look at attraction marketing formulas, there's 95 to 97% that aren't ready yet. So we look at them with attraction marketing. But yeah, you come out and 3 to 5% of your people are ready. If you've got 1,000 friends on social media, 30 to 50 are like, yes, give me that thing, right? So your business goes like this. Then we hit the first wall where we run out of people to talk to, and we start to and our income goes down. So that, I've got to learn some cold marketing strategies. I've got to learn attraction marketing. I've got to go to that next level. Then we hit this next wall, and this is where we see a lot of people hit, where it's just like, I've done some work, but I need a bit of a break, and then we start coming down. And so it's not about you have to work 24/7 for the rest of your life. It's just understanding to get through this next dip and grow the next level does take that little bit of extra commitment. But if we do that and we build the builders and we build the leaders, that then you can start to step away. You can start to say, you know what, I've created this living organism that can survive and even thrive without me. That is just going to take that little bit of extra time. But too many people kind of hit this point and then it's like, oh, as you say, they're like, you know what, I'm just going to take a week off. And that's okay. But understand there's going to be a lot of people who've walked past your restaurant in that week and decided to go eat somewhere else. So unless you have social media funnels in place, attraction marketing, or a team who can open the restaurant for you, I should say, then people are going to walk past. And the other thing, and the really good point, I want to come back to this restaurant analogy because I use something very similar myself in my book. But the other really good point you make is, again, you know, I come back to my small business days where I was running a clinic and, you know, I had myself and my business partner and then we had all this staff, and you can sit there and like, yes, I've made it. You know, I've got a good income now and I've bought the nice car and I'm coming into work, and there's that element of choice where I've only got to be in there like 3 to 4 days a week because you've got a lot of staff. But if your cleaner calls in sick, guess who's cleaning the toilet at the end of the day? And if your receptionist is sick or has a funeral or wedding or is just annual leave, guess who's answering the phones that morning until you've sort of plan B? You. And that is always in any business, in any business model, you're never above cleaning the toilets at the end of the day. And I learned that lesson very, very swiftly because I'm like, yes, I've made it. And I did what we all do, right? And again, thankfully I learned it early and I learned it when I was young. But I got the business to a point and it was like, yeah, we're staffed now. Everyone kind of knows what they're doing. You know what? I'm going to go skiing for 3 months. And I booked a flight to Vancouver and I drove up to Whistler and I went skiing for 3 months. And I didn't go skiing for 3 months because about 3 weeks in, the accountant rings. And the accountant's like, mate, get home today. Like your business has 5 to 6 days left before it's starting to fall apart. Like you are just hemorrhaging money. Wow. You should probably come home. And so that was again, an expensive lesson, right? But I quit too soon. And I don't have time to get into it today. You know, we've got other videos and stuff to talk about, you know, before you quit your job and, you know, some of the perils of going full time. But I do want to talk about that financial side of things because that is, you know, what I really love to talk about and what I feel is missing in this industry somewhat is that, again, we can come in for $500. You can start a business for under $1,000 in this industry, which is incredible. But sometimes that also means people don't quite have that financial understanding. And you talk about the restaurant, and in my book I talk about, you know, you've got a fish and chip shop and it's on this beautiful location. It's right on the beach, you know, and you buy some beautiful fish and you open and you do the big sort of marketing campaign. Lots of people come in and you make $10,000 in that first month. Now you have two choices. You go out and you use that $10,000 to hire more staff, do more marketing, buy more fish, pay your bills, and then, like, you know, enjoy what's left over, or you buy a new car. Now, if you buy the new car, you don't pay your staff. The staff don't show up. You don't buy more stock. There's no stock to sell. You don't pay your electricity bill. The remaining fish you do have stinks. And no one, like everyone walking past just has to cross the road because your business stinks. And as you say, like that stink can spread very quickly. But too often we see that in the network marketing industry, isn't it? We get that great bonus check and we have that $10,000 month and we can say, oh, I've got it. I've made $10,000 residual. No, so much of that is bonuses or leverage at the moment. And we have to understand that in business, in leadership, you pay yourself last. As Simon Sinek says, you know, leaders eat last. And in business, you pay yourself last. We have to have, like, businesses have budgets. Businesses have schedules, businesses have responsibilities, and businesses have budgets. And so if someone's not reinvesting back into their business, what's going to happen to their business at the end of the day?
Sure. Eventually, the reality is if you're not reinvesting back in your business, you don't have a business. It's just very simple. If you're not reinvesting into your business, you don't have a business. You have a really high paying sales job in this industry, which nothing wrong with that. Like, look, if you want to, I tell people this all the time, you know, there's a culture of people who will say bartend for 6 or 7 months, save up a bunch of money, and then go travel for 3 months until all the money is gone, come back, do it again. I always tell people, hey, if that's the life you want to live, great. Do it inside of network marketing because then you can really just do it from anywhere. And it's a much more luxurious way to be a digital nomad, right? But ultimately, if you want to create sustainability and the ability to actually walk away at some point, if you want to be able to sleep at night without stressing over your bank account or any of those things, you've got to be willing to say, right, okay, what don't I know that I get to invest in? Whether it be about myself, whether it be a skill that I get to learn, whether it be a coach that I get to hire, whatever it may be. Who are the leaders on my team that I want to make sure are really, really well taken care of so we can reinvest back into them? I mean, right now, we literally just got done sending out, gifts for the end of the year for the top 25 people in our organization. And as we were kind of doing the balance sheets, and my wife shared with me how much we spent on that, I looked at it and I said, God, if this was a traditional business, the amount of money we'd have to spend on this versus what we're able to do in network marketing for the yield that production gave us, it's remarkable. And so, the best way of putting it, I think, when it comes to reinvesting into your business and into yourself, of course, as I tell people this all the time, is, dig your well until the water runs dry. Put yourself in a position so that you don't have to be anxious and stressed out. Now, look, I get it, but there have been plenty of times in my life where I've been scraping for change, dead broke, desperate. And what I know is that we can either build inside of this space from inspiration or desperation. And most of the time in the beginning, it's from desperation, and that's okay. But as soon as you start to make that money, you've got to change gears so that you can sleep better at night, so that your partner feels safe and secure. But also, there's another side of it, and that's this. You might have people inside of your network that don't take you seriously, that don't look at network marketing as a real business. Well, if they were to observe how you're treating it, why should they? If you're not reinvesting, if you're not saving money, if you're not creating a cushion for yourself, a slush fund or a rainy day fund with the money that you're making, why would I consider you to be a real business owner? Why would I look at network marketing as a real business if you're not operating in that way? And then the other side of it is, I believe Peter Drucker, the management expert, was the one that said it, and I'll probably butcher the quote, unfortunately, but what can be measured can be improved. So if you're not measuring how much is coming in, what you're spending it on, how much did it cost you to acquire some of the distributors in your organization, and you have to factor those things in, right? Like a little bit of an old school technique, but let's say you go to like a networking event, and the networking event is $100, right, to get in, and you meet a bunch of great people, and one of those people enrolls into your business. Well, what's the cost of that acquisition? It's worth factoring it in. It's worth knowing those things, because then you evaluate, is it worth for me to go back to that networking event? Is it worth it for me to, reinvest into going to a company event? The answer is probably all the time. But if you blow 10 grand on a new car and then the event comes around and you can't afford to go to the event, how long are you going to really last? And then what? You're going to get on a Facebook Live with your team and say, oh, you got to get to this event, but I'm not going to be there because I blew all my money because I'm not being smart about how I save. And just to be clear with everybody, you're learning from a guy in Andrew who is a brilliant financial mind. This is a guy who really, really understands the importance of financial stewardship. And you're listening to a guy in me who, take it from me, took years to learn this part. It was hard for me. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to not be the guy that was just spending money and being cool and, ego, this and that, because I made a little bit of money. It was the first time I made real money. I mean, I'm classic case, so I learned the hard way. But I also know there's something else to be said about this, is that, there's a lot of talk in the world of network marketing about, and personal growth, about abundance, right? And being abundant. And so people are like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to buy the car because, I'm abundant. I'm just going to manifest more. And that's actually not how it works. There's a difference between abundant thinking and abundant doing. And again, this is probably a higher level financial mindset conversation, but I think it's worth it in terms of the context of reinvesting into ourselves. What I've learned about money is that money will always go to serve its highest good. And if I demonstrate the ability to shepherd the money that I have through abundant doing, I'm far more likely to create massive abundance in my life. And that showed up for me clear as day when I got really, really, really honed in on learning more about financial literacy, learning what it looked like to reinvest into my business. What was a smart investment? What was a stupid investment? How much should I be saving? How much should be in a fund set aside? How much should I be investing into, alternate streams and things like that? As soon as I started making those decisions in a real way, guess what happened to my organization? It multiplied exponentially. Why? Because money, abundance, said this guy can handle more. If you can't manage $1, you can't manage 1,000. That's for sure. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and we're going to get into that over the next 2 days as well. Like, the power of that $300 a week. You did mention it earlier, and I'll just sort of circle back to that. We can create financial freedom with $300 a week if we know how to do it, and I will show you how to do that over the next 2 days, guys. But yeah, there is that mindset of like, well, once I have $100,000, then I'll learn how to take care of it. It's like, no, you learn how to take care of $1, and then $100,000 will end up in your lap, and you will sit there and like, wow, like money just seemed to fall out of the sky. But it was because you created the habit and you learned how to take care of it first. And again, you said so many really, really important things, and you talk about, like, again, what I would pay to send a staff member off to a professional development course, and that versus sending a top income earner a beautiful Christmas hamper. I mean, just poles apart. Like, but because we come in with so little money, sometimes we can have such a small investment mindset. And again, if you have a top producer in your team bringing in $50,000 to you, and like you can't see the benefit of spending $200 on a thank you hamper for them at Christmas, like a beautiful bottle of wine that they can enjoy, that is going to be a limiting factor on your business. And again, we say all of these things not to tell you to be boring, not to be all vanilla and boohoo and wet blanket. It is about understanding the bigger picture. If you truly want freedom, we have to just stay a little bit more committed. And if we want time and money, we do have to invest time and money. As you said, Zach, and this was me in my 20s for a long time. It was like, you know what, I'm just going to work my butt off for 9 months so that then I can have these 3-month ski holidays. That was me and I was single. I was 20. I could do it, right? I'm in a very different position now. But again, like if you were sitting there and saying to all of your friends, I'm not in a get rich quick scheme. This isn't a scam, blah, blah. This is about financial freedom. But then you turn around and you spend your first $10,000 on upgrading the car, you have just sent some messages out there to the universe that actually I'm not taking care of my money and I am treating this like a get rich quick scheme. This is a get rich quick scheme if you treat the money you earn like it's just going to come in forever. But if you respect the money that comes in and you show up and you put it to work and you reinvest back into great people, you reinvest into yourself. And this is probably the last thing I want to talk about today because I want to respect your time, Zach. But when we talk about, investing in yourself, and this is such a business of communication. And I spent yesterday talking about, really understanding how to attract leaders and have those conversations with leaders and just sort of differentiating your customers and your sharers and your builders and your leaders and that. And so much of that comes down to the language that you use. So if you want to go out and attract great leaders, if you want to bring great business builders in, you need to understand that, people who like love business and want to talk about business speak different languages. They are going to talk about goal setting. They are going to talk about what's your budget. They're going to say, like, where are you investing? They're going to ask you these questions. And you need to be able to communicate with them. You need to be on the same level. So how do you do that? You read good books. You go to the courses, you go to the networking events, you get a coach. You understand how to speak their language so that you can say, yep, hey, this is it. This is my business model. This is how it works. This is what you can do. Now, for someone who's never done this before, we can use videos and that to help get started. But again, if you really want to step up into leadership, business building, residual income, you need to be able to talk about goal setting. You need to talk about, I'm putting this money away because this is the bigger picture we have in place. So how do you find that, Zach? Like, how do you find, because guys, like Zach is incredible. He's built an incredible international business. And I see the people that he brings into his business from all over the world in a pandemic from behind his computer, which means he's branded himself very well. He adds incredible value to the world, but he knows how to communicate with great people all around the world. So how do you find that? Like, how do you find when people are often, I'm sure people are reaching out to you and saying, mate, you need to have a look at this, but you can tell very quickly that they haven't done the work on themselves yet because they don't really even understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I tell people all the time, and I think for you guys down there, I think you might have Dragon's Den. I tell people just go watch Shark Tank. I really do. I say go watch Shark Tank. Like learn some of the basics of language and whatnot when it comes to business. But I think that language is everything. I think that what I was always keenly aware of, because I had amazing mentors in my life, amazing mentors in my formative years who really taught me a lot of what we're talking about now. But I would always pay very close attention when I was in a meeting with them because I would just be quiet and listen and take notes. And I'd pay attention to their posture and their body language and their eye contact and all that. But I paid very close attention to the words that they used. And what I realized was that every single person that they met with left with the feeling of, I don't know whether or not I'm going to join this guy's team, but what I do know is this guy knows what he's talking about. He's not messing around. And so I got really committed to making sure that when people left my presence, they felt like, if I'm going to be in business, I want to be in a business with a guy like that, because he knows what questions to ask. He knows what the pitfalls are. He knows what some of the issues are inside of my, existing business model or whatever it is. And that's the other thing I do. I'm constantly studying other business models. I'm paying attention to what's going on in the world of, if you're in the health and wellness space, for example, right? Like, I'm paying attention to what's going on in the world of health and wellness. What's going on for, what's the headache that gym owners might have? What are the pain points of beauty professionals, for example, that I can solve within my presentation? Because here's the thing, if you start to pay attention to other people's business models and you start to pay attention to learn what their pain points are, you can create a presentation that overcomes all of their objections by the time you're done. And that's an amazing thing. Because
that's a ninja skill, right? That's ninja when you're overcoming objections. And sorry to interrupt, but it's like, I am so confident that I will bring your objection up and disarm it in front of you. Like, I'm not scared of your objection because I have that posture and that belief, and I can just come in and say, look, this is how we do it here, and disarm it in front of you. Like, that is ninja technique.
Yeah, I just did it I did my first live presentation in almost 2 years. In fact, my last live presentation prior to what I just did a couple of days ago was in Australia. When I was in Australia, that was my last time being in front of a live audience. And I got in front of 25 professionals, all in a niche category. And by the time we were done, I just kind of, worked the room a little bit. Are there any questions I can answer for you? No, you literally answered every single one of my questions during your presentation. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't a mistake. That was on purpose. Why? Because I'm paying attention to what's going on in the lives of my potential partners, not my prospects. Hear my language. These are my potential partners. And if I want to be in partnership with them, I want them to be in partnership with me. And the only way they're going to want to be in partnership with me is if they know that I care about where they're coming from and where they want to go. So language is everything. Everything.
One last thing, and wrapping it all up. And again, I did talk about this yesterday, that one of the greatest challenges for someone is that we can't, is time management, essentially. And we can't give all our time to everyone. And the bigger your team gets, obviously, the more people looking to you for help. And a business decision is that we need to prioritize the income producing people, doing income producing tasks with income producing people. Now, as someone who's done a lot of personal development, who's constantly growing themselves, that does mean you probably have to leave a few people behind. You've probably had to let some old friendships just not dismiss, but just put them down the ladder a little bit because you have bigger goals, you have a bigger drive. And so, that kind of blue personality for that person who doesn't want to leave anyone behind, who wants to bring everyone with them, but it's altruistic, right? It's an expensive decision to make. And if we talk at it from a pure business point of view, because this is a business conversation, we cannot take everyone to the top with us, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'm really big on upfront agreements and preemptive contracts, preemptive verbal contracts. So when I first get with any single person in my world, from a business capacity, I make it really clear. I say, look, and I've said this line 1,000 times in my career minimum. Look, I say, you walk, I walk. You run, I run. You sprint, I sprint. Another way I say it, you give 25%, I'm going to give you 25%. You give 50%, I give you 50. But if you give me 100%, I'm going to give you 200%. So I make it very clear to them. And then the other thing I talk to them about is I say, look, ultimately, network marketing is the vehicle. It can take you from where you are to where you deserve to be. Me, I'm just the GPS. Okay. So I'm going to say, go straight, make a right, make a right. If you make a left when I say make a right, cool, no worries. Recalculating. Okay, go straight, make a left. But if you make a right when I say make a left, recalculating. What I need you to understand is that from the very first moment we get started, I'm always going to give you directions to get to where you want to go with the least amount of traffic possible. Doesn't mean you're not going to hit road bumps and speed bumps along the way, but I'm going to guide you in a way that's going to get you there as quickly as humanly possible. However, ultimately, at the end of the day, like I said, the company and the industry is the vehicle. I'm the GPS. but you're the driver. And so if and when down the road they feel like they're not getting my attention, or they feel like, I'm not, giving them as much as maybe I used to, it's always a very simple conversation. It's, hey, what did you do last time I said turn right? I turned left. Okay. Would you like to recalculate from where you're at right now? Yes, I would. Okay. What's going to be different this time? And again, I'm just creating a new agreement, So I'm really big on, you've heard me talk about this from StageMate, I'm really big on crock pot or slow cook leadership. I'm really happy for people to take 3, 5, 10 years. I don't care how long it takes for someone to step into their lives and gain freedom. I love seeing people come out after 5, 6, 10 years. It's amazing. It's a miracle. And what I always tell everybody is, I say, look, success waits for nobody, and it's available to anybody. And when you're ready, I'll be ready for you. So I just keep it moving.
Absolutely love it. And I mean, similar thing, different words. I believe in everyone, but I rely on no one. I believe everyone can come into this. I believe everyone has the business model. They find a product, a company they really align with. They find a service, they find their industry, but my financial future is my responsibility. And so I can't rely on anyone else at the end of the day. And I have to look in the mirror. Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. As you said right at the start, is you're the CEO. Can you look in the mirror every single day and say, you know what, did you do what you said you were going to do? And that's what it is to me as well. So, Matt, I know we have run a little bit over time, and it's, I do want to obviously appreciate and respect your time, and thank you for being on. Guys, if you want to follow Zach, Facebook, Zach Slobin, Instagram, @ZachSlobin. I always give people the warning, he does think Ozark is better than Breaking Bad. So you do just have to take that into account, because Ozark is amazing, but Breaking Bad is incredible. And we will fight to this until the day we die. So as long as you can deal with that issue, follow Zach. He will give you an incredible amount of value just being in his presence, because that is the kind of network marketing professional that he is, and I admire, and I've followed for many, many years. So mate, thank you so much for being here and giving incredible value to everyone who's watching today.
Really, just a huge honor for me, mate. And thanks for doing what you can to lift up the industry. And hopefully we'll get to cross the border sooner than later, and, have a pint or something like that to celebrate everything that you're creating. So just really happy for you and proud of you, mate. And just lots of love to you and your family.
I have a huge itinerary booked for when we can finally get to America. I think I'll need about 6 months to catch up with everyone, mate. Cannot wait to see your new place. I haven't seen your new place. So yeah, very, very cool. And thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.